If you've been laid off and the company wants you back, you're going to be taking a huge pay cut. So in this video, we're going to talk about some fundamentals of what is going on in the market with all these people that are getting laid off, because there's more and more reports showing now that all these people that got laid off are actually getting rehired at a discounted price. So this video that I'm going to show you right now is a woman talking about her experience in the Bay Area and actually going to get laid off. And she's going to say how she got rehired, or they tried to rehire her at a discounted rate. And I think this is happening across the market, that they're doing this. Okay, let's watch this video.
Imagine you work at a big tech company and you've been there like 5-6 years. Your salary was, let's say, $180,000. Okay, now they lay you off and they're like, you know what? We could just repost this position for like $140, and we just save $40,000. Like, one of the reasons that's happening, this commenter is saying, yeah, there's layoffs and then rehires so that they can reset the salary bases much lower. That doesn't really surprise me. But there are people in the comments who are like, yes, this happened to me. Essentially, I was a boomerang employee. Like, I was laid off and then asked to come back. And when I was asked to come back to the exact same job, it was less pay. If any of us were in that position where you lose a job and you lose your income, and then they ask you to come back, like, it's a tough market. I'm sure that most of us would be like, okay, I'll come back. To then also be like, okay, great. It's the exact same job. We're just going to pay you 20% less. Why? Because we can.
Yeah, so you heard it, and that is happening across the field. So we need to chat about a question that one of my viewers had, and we're going to answer all of it in this video, right? So this guy said, Rico, sometimes you come across as disturbed by these innovations. Other times you're laissez-faire and seem supporting extreme capitalism that will use these technologies to advance to prove the poor folks determined. Who are you really? I really like your videos, but notice this trend. So he's talking about these AI tools, these layoffs and whatnot, because I am for making a profit for these companies, right? And when we're talking about capitalism, the United States isn't really doing capital at its true form, right? Because we as the United States have Social Security and we have all these social services that go against capitalism in its true form, right? And the definition of capitalism, I have it right here on the screen, is private ownership, profit motive, market competition, and free enterprise. And when I look at all these ideas, they look great in theory, but implementation is where it all goes wrong. Because private ownership, I think we can all agree that, owning private factories are owned by individual businesses is a good idea. To have all these factories like General Motors and all that kind of stuff not owned by the government is a pretty solid idea. And to make a profit, I don't think anybody in the United States would fault you for making a profit. Market competition, businesses compete for customers, is a good idea. And I don't think that anybody can say no to that. And free enterprise, individual can start and run their own businesses, right? Those are all ideas that I think we can all agree on. But now here comes the caveat where I'm not so sure about the true capitalistic form of it. So when we do corporate bailouts, pure capitalism in theory says no business should be allowed to fail, promoting efficiency and innovation. So what does that mean? When the US government steps in and bails out big players, then that is not capitalistic in a capitalistic society, right? So when the US government implements restrictions or bails out businesses with taxpayer dollars, that is something that a socialist society does, right? Because when we're talking about pure capitalism, businesses that can't stay afloat need to fail. And we're here saying, oh, it's too big to fail, so we'll bail them out. So once you're a Goliath, then if you got this huge company, you can do what you want because you know that taxpayer dollars will actually back you in ways that you can make stupid decisions on the helm and then just be bailed out. And here we go. So the capitalist society can implement student loans forgiveness, right? But there's problems with caveats with that also. Here we go. Here are some of the stuff that goes against in this video. On the screen right now, you can see some of the stuff that goes against true capitalism, right? Government regulation, heavy complex labor laws, price control in certain areas, heavy environmental restrictions, high taxes, subsidies and bailout, and welfare program and protectionism, right? And government monopolies. So we have all these things, and some of them are really good, like protecting vulnerable people is a real good thing. I don't think anybody doubts that. But what I am trying to do in my videos is to walk the fine line of where is enough enough? Because a picture like this is what I do not want to happen. I believe in the middle class, that all these people should have a job and make a living and not work 40 hours a week for no pay and nothing to show for at the end. Because I don't think that that is a true American thing. And I truly believe that you should be working 40 hours a week and getting paid a living wage, because if you're working for 40 hours, you should be able to show something for it. I know there's phases in life that you go through that might not have the best outlook, where you're like, I'm starting at a Subway sandwich, I'm working at McDonald's, I'm taking 2 jobs right now because I need to pay bills. I had some medical emergencies or whatnot. But the true form is that you want a society where there's a middle class, where people are actually prospering. Because if people are not prospering, you'll see this like San Francisco, where people just living on the street, and then business investments are going to fail because nobody wants to open up a business when you have homeless people living on the street and doing needles and doing drugs in front of your store. It's just not what a business owner can do. And I'm sorry if you watch this video if that offends you, but it is true. I, as a business owner, would not invest in a place where there's homeless people in front of the streets doing drugs, because it's going to be hard for you to get customers in your store to do that. And that's why we need the city and all these laws and regulations in place for people to actually not do this and not be homeless, and help them out to get them back on their feet and trying to get them to be a customer again, right? And one of the things that I'm like truly sad about when I talk about these ideas of these capitalism ideas is that right now you see that, Zuckerberg got pressured into censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story and stopping stuff about COVID. So misinformation got censored and all this. This is not what the government should be doing and spending its time on, of accusing Facebook and telling Facebook what it should do. This is not a capitalist society. This is censorship. And that is one reason why I started this channel. Was when I started off, I said, this TikTok ban is absolutely unconstitutional, because I just feel like Americans should have the right to express their freedom on social media. But then there were privacy concerns and all that kind of stuff. And it's unheard of to me to ban an app that so many Americans use and get so much good information from. But the US government does not like that, because then you can twist the narratives and can say, hey, we can now tell you what to show and what not. So what they did to Meta, they can't do to TikTok, so they don't like it. They want to ban it. It's a security hazard for them and not for the American people. So that is why the motive of them banning it. And when I'm looking at this big conglomerate giant, I'm keep saying we as Americans are probably one of the most powerful people in the world, because if we would unite together, black, white, Asians, whatever you are, Native Americans, whatever you want to call it, whatever you are, Hawaiians, if you're, all that, like, oh, we don't want to occupy the land. But if we come together as one, then the government is scared. That's why when there's people do training in Robinhood and they all band together and make stock rallies go up, they halt trading, because we as a collective are too powerful to stop. And when I'm looking at making these videos and I'm talking about these ideas and these innovations, I'm trying to walk a fine line with when is enough enough? When is enough profit good enough? Because you cannot have infinite growth, at least in my idea. Because let's take Apple, for example. If everybody in the world has an iPhone and a Mac computer, what else is there? Like, how do you keep growing if everybody has a Mac and everybody has an iPhone and everybody has the AirPod Pros, where is there more growth? Are we going to start colonizing other, like other planets to trying to get them to sell Apple products? I don't know where it ends, because constant growth at one point isn't achievable, right? Because and if the globalization already uses iPhones, then and Apples and AirPod Pros, or you can say Samsung, Microsoft, whatever, then where is it gonna stop? How are you gonna keep increasing profits and keep going higher and higher with your profits when everybody already uses your products? And it is so hard for other people to come in and start challenging that status quo, that monopoly that Apple has, that monopoly that Microsoft has. So it is a fine line between pure capitalism and socialistic society, where we actually give chances to people that aren't that well developed, that don't have the knowledge and the money to fund their own business and start their own, Apple or whatever. So there's just so many intricacies that I can't cover in just one video. But what I'm for is small businesses that actually control their own product, that control their own supply chain, that can control their own marketing, that can control their own SOPs, standard operating procedures, that can do their own regulations and say, hey, if my product's not good, you're not going to go and buy it. If your pizza sucks, I'm not going to come back. And that is a problem that I see with Subway. And people pointed that out. Oh, you didn't go to a local sandwich shop. Yeah, that's because there aren't really any Subway shops around or sandwich shops around. So when you have these huge corporations then lay restrictions on you and telling you what you can't do, that isn't the freedom that I've came here to experience. And some of the stuff I get, you got to have laws so you don't poison, you don't just dump hazardous chemicals into the sewer system just because you're like, oh, I'm going to save some money. But these are laws that need to be followed. And when we're looking at the United States and we're looking at all these people that got laid off, and we're seeing that they're going to have $40,000 pay decreases, that hurts. That really hurts. And I know you might be like, I'm not a tech worker, but that's going to affect you too. In some way or another, that is going to affect you too. And I know you're like, I live in Kansas and doing all that. Well, we're in the United States, where we collectively pay taxes, we buy products, we source products, we do all these things in the United States. And once that huge conglomerate, that tech perkers, isn't going to get $40,000 extra and isn't going to spend it, then all of a sudden you're going to be like, all of a sudden my Walmart is closing. All of a sudden this is closing. My distribution hub in Kansas isn't going as well because the Walmart products isn't going to go through there, or they're closing up shop because trading routes and all these things. It is so intricate, right? All these moving parts have to be working simultaneously together to create this huge economy. And when we're talking about taking pay cuts, letting all these people go, it's just a matter of time till that shows in the economy. I know we're resilient, and that's what they keep saying online. Oh, we're so resilient. But at one point, we have to come and say, hey, this is too much stress. We need to hire these people again. Because at one point, there's going to be with universal basic income or some other stuff, because we're just tapped out. And if there's no jobs, and we're back to this picture again, where there's a few really, really rich people and everybody else is poor, they don't have the money to buy items to stimulate the economy as much that would happen if there's all these middle class sectors, right? So this is wealthy, this is poor, right? And I don't want to be the wealthy person when all these other people are poor. I just don't. Because when you're that wealthy and you're just poor, you live in your own bubble. And when I'm like doing my walks and I'm talking about all these ideas, I'm trying to really find the fine line of how can I phrase this to not sound like an asshole? It's like, when does corporate greed say, okay, we're good? When is corporate greed gonna say, we're good for this quarter and we're just gonna do sustainable and invest into sustainability and just trying to keep the market shares and innovate in that market share, rather than just go out and say we're going to keep on growing, we're keep extracting resources, we're keep extracting people, and we're going to go and actually try to reach new markets and sell everybody in the world an iPhone, right? So there's all these ideas and all these topics that are kind of complex, but you need to figure out, where do you stand and where do you think you want this to go? Because I'm not making these videos for you to buy my merch. I'm not making this video for you to buy anything basically. I'm just making these videos of sharing a point of view where, when is enough enough, and when are people going to catch on that constant growth isn't achievable because we've reached everybody already. And there's only so many hamburgers you can eat till you're like, I'm fed up with hamburgers. There's only so many new variants of iPhones till you're like, nah, I'm good. And when has that point reached? And there's only so much you can buy a new car for, and you're like, you know what? That is too expensive. I'm not willing to spend that much money on a car. And so now I'm asking you, where do you see the drawing line? Where do you see yourself going? Where do you think that those lines are that shouldn't be crossed? Because I get it, I get it. There's so many intricacies that I haven't even touched on in this video because I only have about 16, 17 minutes to talk to you guys. That's how long my walk should be. 20 minutes and then I'm done. So it isn't as simple as it is, but we're so intertwined with politics, religion, and we're so polarized with all of each other that the common base, the fundamentals, we're not taking care of. We're not taking care of our vulnerable. We're not taking care of our veterans, and we just let them to rot outside and tell them like, oh, they're homeless. No, we should try to get them to have housing. We should try to get them into get them the help that they need, but it needs to be done at a reasonable cost, where it's not huge profits, where they sell the US government a house for $1 million and he can only live there, a homeless person can only stay there for 30 days, and they charge the government a shit ton of money. All these programs have a cost to it, and there needs to be a cap on it where we can help these people out and not overcharge the government and the taxpayer just because we have taxpayer money. Because as we're seeing now, taxpayers are going to have a difficult time paying taxes when these layoffs are going to continue. So this is just my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think, and like and subscribe, follow me on LinkedIn, and I will see you in the next video. I really appreciate you guys.